I have heard it. It seems a bit kind of like, well, it doesn't sound like quitting to me. It just sounds like doing exactly what you're paid for and nothing else, which is what I would do anyway. So
I think it's bullshit. I really do.
So, like, working like a 9 to 5 and then like not giving it your all or whatever.
See, me personally, I never had a job because I'm in college and I get paid to go to college. So I don't know how it feels to have manual labor. Yeah, I get paid 11K to go to college. So I'm happy.
There was a study by the union where I work that if you had started working in 1992, you would actually now be in a worse off position, even if you'd taken all of the basic pay increases, just because inflation has shot up so much. I don't think you can work minimum wage and support yourself. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a concept of a living wage, which is what the minimum wage started as. Time was you could buy a house on minimum wage.
As someone who owns an agency, I am very much part of the hustle culture. And if people like don't like hustling, well, shit, they can work a 9 to 5 job. They can make the money they make. That's not for everyone. Some people just want more money, and that's okay.
I'm in a fucking dead-end job right now, so not really. I don't think there's any movement forward. I'm about to change jobs anyway, so.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, if you're employed by someone else, your goal is to work as little as you can, be the last one in and the first one out, work as little as you can and get paid the most. Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, your time is not valued enough. Like, what, you're working like literally 5 days out of 7? It's not worth it. At the end of the day, you gotta like finesse the guy that's trying to finesse you. So I do that. I've got a 9 to 5, I'll admit it, and he tries to boss me around and everything. I literally will do the least work. I'll barely do anything. I'll literally come to work and doss around and get paid for it. So, do you know what I mean?
I mean, I guess my version of it would be the fact that I just straight up don't work. I have disabilities, so I can't actually work. But from what I've seen, it is literally just doing exactly what your job description says and nothing more, which I think is a very valid way of doing things. I don't see why you should have to go above and beyond if they're not going to pay you more, especially in companies that just don't give any kind of recognition for that. Like, there's some people who really do go out of their way for their jobs and just never get rewarded for it.
The same thing that's happening to everyone else is also happening to me. There's no room for promotion. There seems to be no will to do that for anyone. It's been true for the longest time that the best way to increase your salary is to change jobs, not to stay in the same one. Like, loyalty is not rewarded anymore. I think the time was, in the post-war period, it was rewarded, and you stayed with a company for your entire life, but you just can't do that now. Not least because inflation is now at 8-11%. Like, it's ridiculous.
To be honest with you, I'm kind of afraid for the phrase Zoomers, I guess, whatever you want to call them, Gen Z, because they have this like very sheltered view on the world where they think things are just gonna work out for them in one way or the other. They're not. They're eventually gonna like have to do something, and if they're not gonna, be humble and have some good worth ethic, they're gonna be on the streets.
If you don't like where you're at right now, you can always change, no matter where you come from, no matter where you're at, no matter where you're going in the future. But if you're on that kind of hustle, you're kind of on that grind, and you're like, I don't mind breaking my back. I'm going at it. I'm doing this for a while until I can get to wherever I need to be.
I'm a, what's the word? Pet care specialist is what they call it. I work at an animal shelter. It's good work. It just doesn't pay that much. It's a long commute, and I hate the commute. I think doing the bare minimum is just what we've always done. You just do what you can to not get fired. I mean, at the end of the day, you gotta keep a job. You don't gotta keep it that much, right?
Only a small percentage of people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. So if you end up liking this video, consider subscribing.
At the end of the day, come when you're 80 or whatever and you're at your deathbed, no one is gonna care about your status in money or anything like that. No one will care about that. Everyone will care about family orientated thing. The most beautiful thing is seeing like a family like just branched out. Like he was saying he was at his deathbed, like his grandma's deathbed, and about 70 people are in this one room from this one woman. That is beautiful. No one will ask about what you accomplished in life, what your financial status was. No one will care about that. So money is a man-made construct.
Oh no, it is. I live with my parents, basically. In my country, we do have pretty good benefits. I live in the UK, in Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK, but also part of Ireland. It's complicated. Like, we do get pretty decent sort of benefits and stuff here, but for me, it's a combination of autism and some pretty bad mental health problems that just makes it really kind of impossible. It's very difficult to go out of the house and stuff, especially since COVID. COVID completely messed me up, but we're getting by, like, money-wise okay. I mean, I'm kind of fortunate because my parents sort of managed to do pretty well for themselves when they were working, because they're not working anymore either. They're both retired, but, like, we sort of get by, basically.
Sorry, but I disagree. I disagree wholeheartedly. When you work a job, this is like the morals that were instilled in me. My opinions are my opinions. That's an opinion. That's all it is. When you work a job, they essentially handpicked you. Out of the thousands upon thousands of applicants that they get, they handpicked you to do their job and get paid for it. That's the exchange. You work, you get paid. But going the extra mile for somebody and getting that appreciation, I feel, is worth more than any pay in the world. You're helping somebody.
But I agree with you. If your boss genuinely cares, it's very rare that your boss will care about you. But if he genuinely does, then obviously you pay the same respect back. You care about him because he's doing you a favor and you're doing him a favor. It works in turn. But 9 times out of 10, a boss will hire you and you're literally just a number. You're like basically may as well be a robot, slaving away, and he's making so much money out of you for the work that you're doing. So that's what I mean, like, your time on this earth is so limited and so valued. Like, at the end of the day, it's called the rat race. If you're working 9 to 5, you're working for someone else, you are stuck in the rat race. It is fact at the end of the day. When you are working for someone else, you will never make the max amount of money. You'll make the max amount of money by working for yourself. Do you know what I mean?
The people that are a part of it would prefer it to be called acting your wage. I think that's a pretty good summary of what it is. It seems like there's no will at all on the part of companies to just increase people's wages. I think they see keeping it stagnant as a way to make money, because of course the value of your wages goes down naturally because of inflation and every year. So if they don't increase the amount they're paying you, they're saving money. It's basically a pay cut every year.
It's slavery at the end of the day. All you do is you slave away, you work for money to buy food and a house. That is literally like back in the day, you would slave away, not for money, but you would slave away for food and a house. It's the same thing, but except there's money involved, but all you can afford is food and a house just to keep yourself living. Nowadays, it's like the price of everything is just skyrocketed.
I just wish we could go back to the old times. No, I'm talking where, like, gas was like 97 cents a gallon.
See, I'm a bit like him going back, but like, I mean way back, where you don't work for money. I mean, as economy as a whole, like, I'm a bricklayer personally, so I build houses. So a builder would do his job. There's no money involved. You just build your house and that is it. And then there will be a doctor. He does his job. It's no, like, nothing for money, but everyone does their role in the economy. Do you know what I mean?
No, money is the means to an end. It's how you use it, but it's better to have money than to not have money. So for instance, like, money can give you a lot of relief, but basically, like, if you don't have money, you're kind of fucked, right? Like, let's be honest here. Like, you don't have money, you can't live, you can't buy things for people you enjoy, you can't go on experiences, you can't do a lot of shit without money. So that's great and all, but they're not gonna marry you because you have no money, so you'll never be able to provide for them and their family. Like, if that's the kind of life you want to live, that's cool, but if you want a heritage, I mean, you gotta, like, do something with your life, right? And where you're gonna, like, sit at home and watch Netflix all day? That's not gonna make you happy.
I do socialize quite a lot in the real world. I'll go out clubbing, partying and everything. I'll, like, talk to people in the smoking area and everything. But even that, clubbing itself, like going out partying and that, it's so expensive nowadays. Like, what I was paying like a year ago for like one drink, it's doubled in price. And that doesn't seem a lot, but say you're spending £50 to £100 a night, that's became £200 a night. And to afford that, like, I'm blessed, as in I live at my house, like my parents' house, and that I pay my board once a month and everything. It's not that expensive, so I can afford to live. But if I was living in my own house and I was paying all these bills, I would not be able to afford to go out and socialize with people. So the only sort of human interaction I would get would be through VR chat.
I don't know if the whole energy bill thing is affecting the US. It's affecting us a lot here, like in the UK and just in Europe, where all the electricity bills are just skyrocketing, like absolutely horrendous. And then, like, because the winters here obviously get really, really cold, you know, there's loads of people worrying that, you know, there's going to be people who are going to have to be choosing between heating their homes and having something to eat. Like, you're having to choose between whether you starve or freeze. Meanwhile, they're spending rather a substantial amount of public money on a fancy funeral for the Queen. Because that's definitely what we need right now. Like, she really picked an inopportune time to die. The one time when we really needed the money, she's like, oh, I'm just gonna die. And now we have to spend all our money on her funeral. Why should people with disabilities who can't work have to live on, you know, a few £100s a month? Meanwhile, royals who could work but don't, because they're royalty, get paid millions for doing not very much. They just sort of stand there and wear fancy clothes. A family that is incredibly inbred. If you look into the history of it long enough, you'll find out how every European monarchy, they're all related to each other.
I'll think to myself, like, whilst I'm laying these bricks, and it's like, it's really hard work, it's a really tough graft, and I'm thinking, like, I'm doing all this for like, what, 120, 130 pound a day, and then there's someone else who like knew about crypto and that. They invested and they're a millionaire now, and they did no work. Obviously, you've got to have the know-how. That is the work part about it, because it's a massive investment and that. But it's like, you can become a millionaire overnight. It's so easy nowadays to become a millionaire. It's like, this generation is the easiest it will ever be to become a millionaire. It makes you think like, oh, I should have tried harder in school. I should have become smarter, so I could have been doing the same stuff as that, because that's all I want. At the end of the day, I want financial freedom. I don't want to worry about money. I don't think I would ever be able to actually afford a house, to be fair. Like, it's sort of like I'm in the UK, to get a new house like freshly built, it's like 250 grand.
I like these questions. I like these. I think if I had one message to the world, what you're doing with your life, this world, it can sometimes be very, very cruel. It can sometimes be very great. But at the end of the day, you always got to be happy, because if you're not, you got to put yourself in the right shoes. Because if you're happy and you're doing good and all this and that, and you're positive, that's the right way to go. That's the only thing we can do in this world.
I think even though things like unions have been looked down on for a while, this is exactly the same thing. It's collective action, and this time unorganized, unprompted. There's no one person that the people in power can come to stamp down on it. And I think that gives everyone a lot more power, it beginning to even the playing field. But even so, there's more inequality now in the world than there ever has been. The gap between the richest and poorest is getting wider and wider all the time, and anything that can help to address that will avert disaster.
Well, tech's a good thing. Like, I hate when parents are like, oh, tech is bad for you. Like, you know what? Like, you're doing your child an incredible disservice if you don't let them use tech and explore tech, because they're gonna grow up and then they're gonna enter the workforce one way or another. And if they don't know how to use tech, no, it's more like the problem is like, if you don't know how to use it, it's gonna be a very big problem when you grow up. Any type of job you have to know how to use technology, more or less. Like, there's a very small substrata of jobs where you have nothing to do with technology, but the worst thing you can do to your kid is like limit their exposure to technology, because you're just like living in the past, and the world is moving on without you, and it's gonna move on without your son or daughter as well.
Showing up to work, doing the bare minimum to get paid, right? Honestly, I feel like that's kind of what I do. I don't see any incentive to work any harder than the guy next to me when we're getting paid the exact same rate. I wouldn't see it as like quitting my job or in spite of something. I'm not trying to push myself.
But the thing is, now to live, you can't just, like back in the old days, just build a shed or like a little home wherever you want, and then that's your house. You can't build anywhere. You've got to live by the government's rules. You can't do anything, so you've got to live by their rules. It's an unfair game. Now, to actually work to afford your own house, mortgage, bills, everything, you need a job that is at least like 50 grand, 60 grand a year. For the average Joe, where they didn't go to college, they didn't do all of this, and like for me, I failed all my GCSEs, all my exams and everything, and I'm just a bricklayer now. It's a good job to get into, but you've got to like put in the work. The dream of me moving out and affording to live, not just for food and a house, but like to actually enjoy myself in life, actually a vast dream. Whereas back then, it wouldn't have been. It would have been like a really common thing just to move out when you're like 25. It's a madness at the end of the day.
Because I'm autistic, a lot of the people I know are also people who are either autistic or have other disabilities and stuff. And, generally for people in that kind of community, it's pretty normal. But I know of other people who aren't even disabled, who are still living with their parents. It's kind of not as looked down upon here as it would be in in America, because it's in Ireland as well. You know how in Asia they sort of have this very family orientated culture where it's kind of similar, and it's kind of similar in Ireland.
I'm in a much luckier position than most, I think, where my skills are in demand and will be for quite a long time, and I'll be okay. But there are way too many people out there, and I think at least half of working class people that won't be okay and aren't. The energy crisis and going into winter now, especially here in the UK, is really going to push things and put pressure on the government to do something, and I don't think they will.
I think the meaning of life is just to experience it all. Another way of putting it is you have to go through things in order to develop, attributes and experiences and this and that. Like it's necessary to go through the bad stuff to know about the good stuff.
Amazon, they've got I saw an article about it. The employees, they get a half an hour break, but like the factory is that long. By the time for the people to get from the end of it to the start of it, where the canteen is to get their food, their break is over because it is that long. So it's literally slave labor at the end of the day. And it's small firms where they care about you, they care about your feelings, they care about what you're going through, care about stress, they care about everything. That's what small firms are about.
I work at Amazon. I work at a delivery station, and I show up there 5 days a week, 3:20 a.m. to 11:50 a.m. Kind of sucks. We just do the same shit every day. So I'm like, I'm not gonna try as hard as the guy who's throwing all the boxes hella fast.
I mean, it's nice, it's nice to have that kind of like social platform, especially with COVID going on. Like, it's nice being able to be social without taking the risk of getting sick. I can just party at home, so like, I don't know about like drinking and driving if I went out. So if I do anything, I'm just in the safety of my own home. Since playing, I've made a lot of really good friends, so I definitely would recommend to anybody who's never tried it, to maybe give it a try.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for your interview, bro. This was such a random and awesome opportunity that I got to get, so I appreciate you, man, honestly.
Kindness is contagious. When you are kind, you inspire others. Be the spark. Spreading kindness merchandise available now.